Welcome to Storybreakers special studio session. This is the first and possibly a new series where we move from the stage and record a faithful adaptation of an unproduced Hollywood script. The first one up is the Unmade X-Files script Flight 180 by Jeffrey Riddick. This script is particularly interesting, not just because it's fantastic, but it would eventually become the horror film Final Destination. Yeah, that's right. Final Destination first started out as an X-Files Spec script. And here today, we're going to bring this bad boy to life. Now, without further ado, your players for the show are as followed. MULDER is played by Niall Bruton, SCULLY, Muireann Darcy, Charles, Matthew O'Brien, Sheriff Wood, Skinner, and Cancer Man are all played by Morgan C. Jones. The character Aaron and Tall Man is played by David O'Neill. Josh is played by Donagh Humphreys. Monica, played by Lauren Murphy. And the narrator for today's episode, Liam Cooney. The sound and music you're going to hear throughout is also applied by Jim Sheridan. If you enjoy what you hear, all we ask is that you share this episode on Facebook and Twitter. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Storybreakers podcast. And I would highly recommend that you check out our back catalog. You'll find live script readings of Kevin Smith's Superman Lives and the original Alien 3 Wooden Planet script. And stick around after this performance where I'll provide a mini review of the script itself. Okay, now let's get on with the show.
Newark Airport, night. A faint rain falls as planes take off and land. We move in towards a large 747 sitting at the gate. This is Flight 180. The plane is filled to capacity. We slowly move down the aisle. As we do, several passengers catch our eye. Josh and Monica, early 20s, matching Gap outfits.
I told you after the party she needed a place to crash.
So you let her crash with you? In your bed? And nothing happened. Do you think I'm a complete idiot?
A few rows back is Nikki, late teens, jams to a loud tune on her headphones. Aaron, who's 32, a preppy man with striking red hair, taps Nikki on the shoulder.
Excuse me, you mind turning that down? I've got a killer headache.
Nikki flashes a flirty smile and obliges. Across the aisle we see Elizabeth and Trevor Carlyle, an elderly couple. Elizabeth is trying to finish a crossword puzzle.
9 letters, starts with an E, capable of mass destruction.
Oh, I've got it. Elizabeth. Explosion.
We stop on a man. Sharp viewers will recognize him as Charles Scully, Dana Scully's younger brother from Beyond the Sea. Charles, late 20s, handsome, dressed in a wrinkled suit. Charles looks nervous. Sweat glistens on his face. His eyes dart around the cabin. Charles takes a deep breath, trying to relax, but he can't. His hands dig into the handrest. Next to him, a woman notices Charles's behavior and nervously looks away. Charles rises and goes to the bathroom. Charles leans against the door for a second, his breath quickening. He leans over the sink and splashes water on his face. Rising, Charles looks in the mirror.
Calm down. Just calm.
Suddenly, the bathroom mirror cracks. Charles moves to the door. Just as the entire plane shakes violently, Charles bolts into the plane's cabin. As he does, the plane drops. Around the cabin, passengers scream as oxygen masks drop from overhead. Then the plane flips, yet somehow, impossibly, Charles remains upright. Suddenly there's a loud explosion, and a huge ball of fire races down the aisle. Charles throws his hands up and screams as the flames rush over him. Then Charles Scully snaps back to reality. On the plane. He jumps up from his seat, grasping for air. It takes him a second to realize that everything's normal. The plane's still on the runway. It was a premonition. Around the cabin, everyone is silent, staring at Charles. A female flight attendant rushes over.
Sir, what's wrong?
You've got to stop this flight.
We're getting ready to depart.
Charles grabs her arm, his voice rising.
No, telepilot, the plane. It's gonna explode.
The fear in Charles's voice spreads throughout the cabin. The elderly couple rise, gathering their stuff. Several of the other attendants notice this commotion and rush down the aisle. A male attendant steps closer.
What seems to be the problem?
The plane, you can't take off. You've got to stop it from taking off.
We can't do that. Now, Why don't you?
Charles realizes he has to do something.
No! You either stop this plane or I'll stand here and scream all the way to Boston.
The male attendant moves closer. He's all business now.
Fine. You want off? You're off.
He roughly grabs Charles's arm.
No, wait. You can't stay here. If you do, you're gonna die. You're all gonna die.
Around the cabin, we see passengers rise as the flight attendants try to calm everyone. As Charles is dragged kicking and screaming off the plane, Aaron, Nikki, Josh, Monica, Trevor, and Elizabeth follow. In Newark Airport Security Station, Charles is sitting in the security office. He's being circled by 2 angry security guards.
So you like to cry wolf, mister?
Scully. Charles Scully. And I wasn't crying wolf. I told you, I saw it happen.
Suddenly the phone rings. Guard 2 goes over and answers it as Guard 1 continues interrogating Charles.
Let me get this straight. You scared the hell out of a plane full of people because you had some sort of vision? Is that what you're telling me?
Look, I know how it sounds, but it was so real.
Chad.
Yeah.
Guard 2 looks like he's seen a ghost.
That was the tower. Flight 180. Just went down.
On Charles. The colour drains from his face. We stay on him for a moment, and then we fade out to end teaser. Act 1. Inside the Journal Square Path station in New Jersey, 2 months later. It's nighttime in the dark train station. 3 young women stand on the platform. They're all dressed to kill in form-fitting black outfits. They're winding down from a night on the town. We notice one of the ladies as Monica Brown, half of the young couple that got off Flight 180. Something is said and the group bursts into laughter.
Listen to you, talking trash. And you kiss your mom with that mouth? I'd be ashamed.
Oh, like you're Snow White or something. I've seen what you do with your mouth.
Before another word is said, a train pulls into the station. The 2 girls look at Monica.
You want us to wait for your train?
No, it should be here in a minute. Besides, Josh is waiting for me at Grove.
I don't like leaving you alone.
Hello, this is Jersey. Nothing exciting or dangerous ever happens here.
The girls exchange goodbyes. Monica watches the train disappear down the tracks. She looks around the platform. The station is empty. A light wind whistles across the dark platform. Monica pulls the jacket tight, her foot tapping on the concrete floor. Suddenly, a loud clanging noise rings through the tunnel. Monica whips around, scanning the platform. There's still no one out there. Monica smiles, laughing.
Oh yeah, I'll be real fine.
Monica moves over to the edge of the platform. She leans forward, peering down the platform. There's no sign of the train. Monica's attention is diverted by the sound of something on the tracks. Looking down, she sees several rats race across the track and disappear under the platform. She starts to step back in disgust when she notices something. From Monica's point of view, we're looking at the 3rd rail. A blue spark flickers on the rail. The spark is followed by another spark, then another. As we watch the sparks become brighter, dancing across the 3rd rail, the faint sound of humming electricity fills our ears. Monica watches the sparks, intrigued. There's an otherworldly rhythmic pattern to their movement. Tight on Monica's pupils, the blue sparks flicker in her eyes. Her pupils dilate. The sparks begin to burn brighter, faster, hypnotic. Monica stares at the sparks, unable to look away. Over her shoulder, we see the train slowly round the far corner. The sparks are moving faster now. Their humming drowns out the sound of the approaching train. Monica, still entranced, unaware that the train is getting closer. The sparks crackling over the rails. The humming reaches a frightening crescendo. Monica doesn't move as the train's light illuminates the platform. The train is almost up to where Monica stands on the platform. Something behind her eyes flickers. A brief glimpse of horror. It's like she wants to move but can't. The train is mere feet from where Monica stands. Suddenly a dark shadow moves past her. On the rail, the sparks suddenly disappear. Monica snaps out of her trance. Behind her, a voice calls out, a soft, echoing voice that sends chills up our spine.
Monica.
Before Monica can turn, she's violently shoved onto the tracks. We hear her screams mingle with the screeching of the train's brakes, the sound of metal. Scraping metal rips through the air, followed by a sickening crunch. Then silence. On the interstate, I-90, dawn. A black car rounds the bend. Scully is at the wheel while Mulder snores lightly in the passenger seat. Scully sighs. She's obviously been driving for a long time without conversation. Scully smiles, a plan formulating. She swerves the car to the right, causing Mulder to fall over. He snaps up.
What?
Scully looks at him.
Sorry, there was an animal in the road. I think it was a possum.
Mulder rubs his eyes.
Are we there yet?
We've got about another 25 more miles. I still don't get the cloak and dagger act. Skinner orders us down here without a briefing. It's strange.
Skinner's always been the strong silent type. And strange is our speciality.
I know. But a little background information would be nice.
So would a little sleep. Wake me up when we get there. Oh, and Scully,
Yes, Mulder?
if you see another possum that somehow managed to migrate here from the south, just hit it.
Scully smiles, knowing she's busted. She continues to drive. In the Jersey City police station, Scully and Mulder enter. They're approached by Sheriff Wood, 40s, gruff, thick-necked, and clearly not happy to see Scully and Mulder.
I guess someone thought we couldn't handle this on our own.
Look, Sheriff, we're not here to step on anyone's toes, so let's skip the whole local law enforcement versus the feds routine and get right to work.
The sheriff stares at Mulder. Scully decides to take over.
We've been asked to look into the death of Monica Brown. What do you have so far?
The sheriff hands Scully the police report.
To be honest, it ain't much. The victim was a 22-year-old girl. She was killed last night in Jersey City, hit by a train. The question is whether she jumped or was pushed.
Was anyone else seen on the platform?
No. And the girl didn't drink, so alcohol wasn't involved.
Well, suicide seems to be the likely conclusion.
Doubt it. Her friends and family say she was a smart, happy girl with a lot to live for.
That's a common epitaph for people who commit suicide. On the surface, their lives may seem perfect, but if you look deeper, you'll often find problems that can seem trivial to most people. Add to that the possibility of depression or recent life changes, and you have the ingredients for a potential deadly situation.
The sheriff turns to Mulder.
She always like this? Look, lady, all I know is what my gut's telling me. This wasn't a suicide.
Well, if you or your gut have any evidence to the contrary, I would be glad to hear it.
A little over a month ago, there was a flight going out of Newark Airport. This passenger started ranting and raving that the plane was going to crash. He scared some of the other passengers, and they got off the plane with him.
Scully's expression suddenly darkens.
Flight 180.
Yeah. You heard the story?
She regains her composure.
Yes. It was all over the news.
Well, Monica Brown was one of the passengers who got off that flight.
I'm not getting the connection.
Last week in New York, Trevor and Elizabeth Carlyle died in a house fire. They got off Flight 182.
Mulder leans closer, intrigued.
How many people got off that flight before it crashed?
7.
And 3 of them have died in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah. Kinda gives you the willies, huh?
I definitely have a willy. You, Scully?
Scully isn't amused. Mulder notices something in the adjacent interrogation room. It's Josh from Flight 180.
Who's that?
Josh Taylor, the victim's fiancé.
Mulder moves to the interrogation room. Mulder steps into the interrogation room, startling Josh, who's obviously distraught. He nervously chews gum.
Sorry. I didn't mean to scare you.
You didn't. I was... Sorry, I really need a cigarette, but they won't let you smoke in here.
I'm with the FBI. I was wondering if you could give me some insight into Monica's state of mind in the days leading up to her death. Are you aware of any problems that she was...
She didn't kill herself. She was too strong to do that. You know, we were going to get married next year. As soon as we finished school. We'd had some problems, but the crash put things in perspective. Made me realize what was important in life.
Mulder decides not to push the issue.
I'm sorry about your loss.
Tears begin to well in Josh's eyes.
Have you ever had someone close to you die?
Mulder pauses before answering.
Yes. Yes, I have. It will get better, I promise.
The two look at each other in silence, trying to find comfort in all this pain. There is none. After a moment, Mulder turns and walks out the door, knowing there's nothing else he can say. Mulder walks over to Scully.
I don't think he's involved.
Then why are we here? The flight connection is strange, but hardly an X-Files.
Sheriff Wood interrupts before Mulder can respond.
We did bring in a man for questioning. The guy who flipped out on Flight 180.
Scully snaps to attention.
What?
He's a prime suspect. He can't account for his whereabouts during the girl's death or the death of the Carlyles.
Scully stiffens.
Where is he being detained?
In one of our interrogation rooms.
Take me there.
We haven't...
Now!
Her tone leaves no room for discussion. Inside the interrogation room, a weary Charles stares at the ceiling. His unkempt clothes and haggard look tell us he's been here a while. The door opens and Dana steps in the room. Charles's face drops.
Dana, what are you...
Wait a minute. You two know each other?
Scully walks over to Charles.
Are you all right?
I'm fine.
She whips around facing the sheriff, suddenly defensive.
Why are you holding my brother?
Your brother?
Yes.
Because he doesn't have an alibi.
No alibi? You don't even know if a crime has been committed. You can't detain somebody without evidence or reasonable suspicion. Have you been charged with anything?
No.
Well, then you don't have to answer any questions without counsel.
Okay, fine. What are you doing here?
I was sent down here to investigate a girl's death. No one knew you were involved.
Mulder turns to Scully.
You sure about that?
Scully's face flushed with anger.
Skinner.
Before another word is said, she heads for the door. Mulder goes after her. In the hallway, he sees Scully storming down the corridor.
Scully!
She doesn't reply. Instead, she whips out her cellular phone and disappears into the woman's room. Mulder stays in the hall. In the woman's room, Scully quickly punches Skinner's number into her phone. We snap cut to the Assistant Director Skinner's office, where he's sitting at his desk when the phone rings.
Hello? Agent Scully, I've been expecting your call.
Scully is in no mood for niceties.
What the hell is going on?
I'm sorry, Scully. I would have told you under any other circumstances, but...
But what? You thought it would be a nice surprise for me to come here and find my brother being held as a murder suspect?
I had my reasons.
You always do. But this time, I don't want one of your vague answers. I want the truth. I deserve the truth.
You do. I assume you know all the recent victims got off Flight 180.
Yes. I also know my brother was cleared of any involvement in the crash, and he's certainly not responsible for these deaths.
That's what you're there to prove.
Why didn't you tell this before?
As far as the agency is concerned, I don't know Charles is your brother. I processed it like any other X-File. There could be no sign of impropriety when I assigned you and Mulder the case. And your reaction and shock had to be genuine.
What are you talking about?
You and Mulder are being watched.
By who?
I'm not sure. But there are people who will stop at nothing to see the X-Files shut down again. You and Mulder are crucial to the program. If something happens to one of you, or if there's a possibility that someone in your family is involved in something as serious as murder, that information will be exploited. An agent has been sent to find evidence linking your brother to these deaths.
And what if there is no evidence?
Skinner doesn't answer, but his silence says volumes.
How far will these people go to see my brother implicated in these deaths?
After a brief pause, Skinner finally responds.
I don't know, Scully.
She takes a deep breath.
I'll let you know what we find.
With that, she hangs up the phone. Then she leans against the bathroom wall, trying to figure out what the hell to do next. Jersey City Police Station. Sheriff Wood is filling out the paperwork for Charles's release while Scully and Mulder watch.
I don't like this.
There's no evidence. No grounds for keeping him in custody.
Would he be walking if his sister wasn't FBI?
Scully starts to say something, but Mulder steps in.
If you don't mind, I'd like the names and contact information for the other passengers who got off Flight 180.
They all have alibis. I'm one step ahead of you, Agent Mulder.
I'm sure you are, Sheriff, but maybe you could humor me.
The sheriff shrugs and turns, gathering the information. Scully moves towards Charles.
How are you doing?
Charles makes an honest attempt to smile.
All things considered, I'm fine.
And the family?
I sent them to stay with Muireann until this blows over. It's good to see you, Dana. Granted, it's not the best circumstances, but it's been too long.
Before Scully can reply, the sheriff walks over to them.
Listen, pal. I wouldn't make any plans that involve leaving the area.
I won't.
Scully and Charles head for the door. Behind them, Mulder hands his business card to the sheriff.
We're staying at Holloway House in Weehawken. Call me if you hear anything.
The sheriff takes the card and hands Mulder his.
You too.
Sure thing.
Mulder exits the station. As soon as he's gone, the sheriff tosses Mulder's card into a drawer.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be calling you.
Outside the police station, Mulder shoves the sheriff's card into his pocket.
Yeah, I'll definitely be calling him.
Scully and Charles make their way to Scully's car.
So,
She bumps into a tall man walking by.
excuse me.
Scully looks at the man. He's about 6'3" with a pale, scar-marked face. The man glances at Scully with the piercing blue eyes. Then he continues. From Scully's point of view, he's dressed in a black trench coat and shiny new black shoes. He looks very FBI. Scully turns to Charles.
Have you seen that man before?
He follows Scully's gaze.
No? Why?
It's nothing. Let's go.
Off Scully's worried face, we fade out to end Act 1. Act 2. Pavonia, New Jersey. It's midday, and we're in Charles Scully's modern two-bedroom house. The place is immaculate. Scully walks over to a table, her attention drawn to a picture. On the picture is Scully's family at a picnic. Scully is fending off Charles, who is trying to feed her a smouldering hamburger. This is obviously years ago, a much happier time. She touches the frame.
I remember this.
Our last vacation together as a family.
I miss those days. And Dad. Things were so much simpler then. So much more...
Ordered.
Yes.
Scully sets the picture back. Obviously, the memories are painful.
Well, life's like that. Sometimes you think things are going one way and you get thrown a curveball like that knocks everything out of balance. But we were always good at rolling with the punches.
I wonder. I used to pride myself on being strong, but sometimes I have my doubts.
You shouldn't.
Charles smiles.
So, not to change the subject, but what's the deal with you and Mr. Fox?
Mulder? There's no deal. We're partners.
Partners or partners?
Just partners. Why would you think...
Suddenly the front door opens and Mulder enters.
Found a parking spot across the street, but can't find my hotel key. Did I leave it in your room?
Charles gives Scully a, "Yeah, right, you're just partners" look. Scully is flustered.
I didn't see them, but I,
You okay, Scully?
Of course! Why wouldn't I be okay?
Mulder gives her a weird look and then sits by Charles.
So, how are you holding up?
I'll be much better when I know what the hell's going on.
You and me both. Now, when you said you saw Flight 180 crash, did you have an actual vision or was it just a feeling?
Look, don't start treating me like I'm some kind of crazy.
Oh, whoa, Charles. Calm down, okay? Obviously, Dana hasn't told you much about me. I would be the last person to ridicule you.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to snap.
I ask because a lot of people have had a feeling or a sense of foreboding about something. Whether it's taking a flight or walking down a dark street. And while these feelings are part of the extrasensory phenomena, having an actual vision indicates a heightened level of psychic ability. It's a unique gift.
Charles is taken aback by Mulder's candor.
You're serious?
Mulder nods.
At first, I was just nervous. I felt like something bad was going to happen. But then, I felt the plane shake, and it spiraled. And then there was an explosion, and this huge ball of fire engulfed the plane. Everyone. And then it was over. But I could still feel the heat and the smell of burning flesh. It was horrible.
Have you had premonitions before?
Charles tenses, then slowly turns to Scully.
Only once. It was about Melissa.
Scully blanches when she hears this.
Your sister.
Yes, about 3 weeks before she was shot, I was watching the TV when I had this flash of her on a bus. It was raining and the bus skidded off the road and crashed into a ditch. I called Melissa. She was packing for a trip the next morning, some kind of spiritual retreat. They were taking a chartered bus. Anyway, I convinced her not to go. She always believed in that psychic stuff, so she listened. We found out the bus crashed and several people were killed.
Why didn't you say anything about this?
I was going to, but then a few weeks later, she was shot and it didn't seem important.
Of course it was important.
Tears well up in Charles's eyes.
What can I say? Tell you that I saved Melissa from a bus accident, but I couldn't stop her from being shot.
Scully tries to comfort her brother.
I know this must have been very hard on you, but you can't blame yourself.
Why not? If I have a gift, then why didn't I see it? Why did I save her once, only to have her die anyway?
There's a long silence. Finally, Mulder breaks it.
If you and your brother would like to spend time together, I could start questioning the remaining survivors.
No. You've got to do what you can to save the others.
Mulder slowly rises.
You two have a lot of stuff thrown at you. If you need a little time...
Mulder, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but Charles is right. Time isn't a luxury we have right now.
But...
No buts. We'll be fine.
Mulder knows that arguing with Scully is useless. In the street, Scully and Mulder walk up the sidewalk in front of a 2-story family house. In the driveway, Mulder notices a 57 Thunderbird.
This guy's got great taste in cars. What are your thoughts so far?
I'm leaning towards sole survivor syndrome. People who survive life-threatening situations often think they're immortal. They stop taking normal precautions and get killed by something as simple as not looking both ways before crossing the street or falling asleep with a lit cigarette.
But don't you think it's odd that people from this particular flight have died so close to each other?
Stranger things have happened.
Always the doubting Tom.
And you're always looking for ghosts and goblins. So what are you thinking? Maybe those killer cockroaches from outer space have come back for an encore?
They're up to the house now. Mulder knocks on the door. A few minutes later, Aaron Williams, the redhead from the plane, answers.
Aaron Williams?
You're the agent who called?
Yes, I'm Fox Mulder and this is my partner, Dana Scully. We'd like to ask you a few questions.
Come on in.
The living room is decorated with modern art and stylish furniture. Aaron sits on the couch while his boyfriend Paul brings Agent Scully and Mulder some water.
I only met the others twice, on the night of the crash and at the memorial service. But to know that they're dead, it's very unsettling. Do you think that we're in danger?
We have no way of knowing for sure, but we've alerted the local authorities. They'll be keeping an eye on your house.
Aaron takes a swig from a can of Diet Coke.
For some reason, that doesn't make me feel any better.
Right now, we don't know that these deaths were anything more than a tragic coincidence.
Look, I don't believe in coincidence. I think everything happens for a reason. Well, sometimes we just don't know what that reason is.
Paul laughs.
You have to excuse him. He's been taking this class on Buddhism, so now everything's karma this and karma that.
Actually, karma is a Hindu belief. Zen is Buddhist.
Yin, yang. You say tomato, I say tomato.
Aaron nudges him.
Well, I don't know if it's karma or not, but lately I've been... Well, it's hard to explain, but I feel like something's bearing down on me. Like there's some deadline looming over me, and no matter how fast I go, I'm not going to beat the clock.
Columbia University. Night. Mulder and Scully walk past the front door of the lobby, looking somewhat out of place as hip students rush by.
Scully, something's been bothering me, and now may not be the best time to bring it up. But remember the night that your father passed away?
Of course I remember.
You said you had a vision that night.
On Scully, we flash back to Beyond the Sea, to the scene where Scully wakes up on her couch and sees the apparition of her father before her. We snap back to present, and Scully looks at Mulder. She's obviously nervous about this line of questioning.
Yes?
And now your brother has a premonition. There are researchers who believe psychic ability is a genetic anomaly that manifests itself mentally. Finding two siblings who have both experienced this phenomena could prove that theory.
The agents are now up to a giant set of marble stairs. Sitting on the bottom step is Nikki. She's dressed in black and wearing her trademark headphones. The agents stop in front of her and she looks up, turning off her music.
FBI?
Yes.
Nikki holds out her hand.
Identification, please.
The two agents are taken aback, but show Nikki their badges.
Cool. I've never seen one of those. I'm glad you were my first.
Mulder almost blushes. Scully almost rolls her eyes.
So you're here about that girl in Jersey and those old folks downtown who died? Do you think we're being stalked or something?
Nothing that sinister. We're just looking for leads and wanted to see if you'd noticed anything or anyone strange lately.
As if on cue, a girl with spiked white hair and a tight leather outfit bumps into Scully.
Excuse me.
No problem.
No, nothing strange.
How about any feelings of nervousness or hesitation?
You mean aside from when I saw you? Actually, now that you mention it, I have been feeling kind of weird lately. It's like someone's watching me. I even made a friend move in with me because, I'm kind of afraid to sleep alone.
How long has this been going on?
About 2 weeks.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, why?
2 weeks ago was when the Carlyles died.
Inside the car, Mulder and Scully drive down a dark road.
It's a basic belief that many major religions have that a person's death is predestined. That when it's your time to die, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yes, but others believe that a person's actions, no matter how slight, can alter the course of their lives.
But what if all of our actions, even the ones we think are spontaneous, are in fact set from the day we're born?
Then Shakespeare was right when he said, "Life is but a stage and we the players." But if we're just going through life acting out the part that's been written for us, then our existence seems rather pointless, don't you think?
Maybe. But
suddenly Scully's cell phone rings. She answers it.
Scully.
And it's Charles Scully. Sweat pours down his face and the phone trembles in his hands.
Dana, you gotta help him.
Charles, what are you talking about? Help who?
Josh, it's gonna get him.
What's gonna get him? Charles, where are you?
Just do it, Dana. Don't let him die too.
Charles, you have to...
Suddenly the phone line goes dead. Scully turns to Mulder.
Damn it, I lost him. He said Josh Taylor's in danger.
Mulder speeds up as Scully dials another phone number. Inside Josh Taylor's apartment, Josh is soaking in the bathtub when he hears the phone ring. He starts to rise, but is too comfortable. After another ring, the answering machine clicks on.
You've reached 555-4991. Leave a message and I'll think about calling you back.
After a short pause, Scully's voice comes over the machine.
Josh, this is Agent Scully. If you get this message, stay where you are and contact me immediately.
In the bathroom, Josh steps out of the bathtub and grabs a towel. In the living room.
If you get this at home, don't let anyone in.
Josh runs into the room and grabs the phone.
Hello?
Josh?
Suddenly the phone line goes dead.
Hello?
Josh can't get a dial tone. He puts the phone back in its cradle. He looks around the living room. For some reason it seems darker. There are so many dark corners. Tucking in his towel, Josh looks at the front door. It's shut, but he can't tell if it's locked. Josh slowly walks towards the door. In the Holland Tunnel, Scully and Mulder's car races through.
Did he say where he was calling from?
No.
Did he say how he knew Josh was in danger?
No. I told you what he said.
The car speeds out of the tunnel. In Josh Taylor's living room, he goes to the front door and reaches out, touching the knob. The door pops open. It's not locked. Josh quickly locks the door and slides the chain into place. As he does, a faint wind blows through the apartment. Josh glances towards the window. It's closed. Scared, Josh races into the kitchen and grabs the butcher knife. At that moment, the phone rings, scaring the hell out of Josh. He answers it.
Hello?
He hears a faint, garbled noise coming over the line.
If that's you, Agent Scully, we've got a bad connection.
Behind Josh, we see something stir in the shadows, a figure moving forward. It's too dark to get a good look at who or what it is. Josh clutches the phone tightly.
Who is this?
He still can't make out anything over the phone, But then he hears a voice call out. That same frightening voice we heard at the train station.
Joshua.
Outside Josh's apartment building, Mulder and Scully's car pull into the parking lot. Mulder brings the car to a halt.
Come on!
As the two agents open the doors, they hear someone scream. The agents look up and see Josh fall 10 floors from his apartment window.
No!
The two agents look away as Josh's body hits the pavement in front of them with a thud. Suddenly off to the left, Scully sees a figure walking out of the building. It's the tall man.
Mulder!
Without saying another word, the two agents charge after the tall man. He sees them and takes off. Mulder and Scully chase him down a dark alley. They're fast, but he's faster, and he has a head start. At the end of the alley, the tall man hangs a right. Seconds later, the two agents round the corner, just in time to see the tall man start his car and roar down the street.
That was the man from the police station.
Are you sure?
Yes. I think that's who Skinner warned me about.
Off the agent's concerned look, we fade out to end Act 2. Act 3. Outside Josh Taylor's apartment. The place is swarming with police as Josh's body is loaded into a coroner's van. Sheriff Wood is questioning Mulder and Scully.
So you don't think he jumped?
No, he was screaming all the way down.
Let's go over this again. You left Josh a message because you...
We had some questions about the case. I wanted to make sure he was here.
Don't let anyone in. Kind of cryptic message, don't you think?
People are dying, Sheriff. I decided to skip the sweetness and light routine.
Did the guards notice anything out of the ordinary?
Aside from the tall man you mentioned, no. I'm going to review the tape from the security monitor. So you think this tall man killed Josh?
He didn't have time to kill him, but I think he's involved.
The sheriff halts, a skeptical look on his face.
Have you seen your brother tonight?
Scully halts before answering.
Not since I dropped him off this morning. Now, if you're through with the questions, I'd like to go.
Okay. But I'll be speaking to you soon.
The two agents walk away. Mulder turns to Scully.
You mind telling me why you lied to the good sheriff?
He already suspects my brother. I'm not adding fuel to the fire by saying I spoke with him minutes before Josh's death.
Scully, don't take this the wrong way, but your brother did tell you that Josh was about to die.
That doesn't mean he killed him.
I know, but I think your personal involvement may be clouding your judgment. You have to look at what's right in front of you, as hard as that may be. Your brother may be involved in these deaths.
Scully gets in Mulder's face.
Tell you what, Mulder, I'll admit my brother is a murderer when you admit that your sister's dead.
Mulder looks like he's been punched in the stomach. Scully immediately regrets saying this, but she knows she can't take it back. There's an awkward silence. Scully finally breaks it.
I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. It's all just difficult.
Mulder nods, a silent truce forming.
It's okay. Right now our main concern is protecting the people who are alive. I think it's safe to assume that the others are in immediate danger.
We should get everybody to protective custody.
Mulder nods in agreement as they get in the car. Inside Charles Scully's apartment, there's a loud knock on his door, followed by a familiar voice.
Charles, it's Dana.
We pull back from the door, and a faint light flickers across the door. It appears to be the glow from the TV. After a moment of silence, there's another knock, this time more urgent.
Charles, open the door now!
No one comes to open it. Moments later, the door is kicked open. Scully and Mulder step in the room, guns drawn. The apartment is dark. The only light comes from a television in the corner. On the screen, we see a woman being menaced by an evil-looking girl from the horror film Sole Survivor. Scully calls out again, her voice tinged with nervousness.
Charles?
Still no response. Scully steps deeper into the dark room. Mulder sees a lamp on a nearby table and reaches for it. Suddenly a figure leaps out from the darkness and slams into Mulder's back, sending him reeling across the room. Mulder staggers back, hitting the small television, which crashes to the floor. The room is plunged into darkness. Mulder and his attacker struggle on the floor, and Scully aims her gun at the moving figures.
Freeze!
But it's so dark that she can't see anything clearly. All of a sudden, one of the figures slumps against the wall and goes still. The other figure moves forward, but Scully can't tell if it's Mulder or his attacker.
Mulder?
Suddenly the figure leaps forward and grabs Scully by the throat, pinning her against the wall, choking her. Scully lashes out, striking her attacker across the face. Whoever it is cries out in pain and stumbles back. Scully charges, grabbing her attacker around the waist and sending him sprawling. She ends up on top of him and gets her first look at her attacker.
Charles?
Charles is barely conscious. He mumbles to himself.
You're not gonna get me. You're not gonna get me. You're not gonna...
Scully reaches down, gently stroking her brother's face.
It's all right, Charles. I'm here. Everything's gonna be all right.
In St. Francis Hospital hallway, Charles lies in a bed, fast asleep. Scully and the young doctor watch over him.
How much did you give him?
75 milligrams.
Why not 100? He's suffering from acute fatigue, delusions.
I know, but 75 is sufficient.
He's dehydrated too. Did you...
Agent Scully.
Scully realizes what she's doing. Takes a breath.
We've got everything under control. The best thing you can do is get some rest.
Scully looks at her brother for a long moment.
Sure. I'll be outside.
She turns and walks to the hallway. Outside the hospital, Scully walks over to Mulder, who is standing across the hall. He's got a bruise and several cuts on his face.
How is he?
He had a breakdown augmented by severe exhaustion. They gave him a sedative. He's resting. And you?
Just a little sore. You Scullys are a scrappy bunch.
Mulder, I've been thinking, and I don't know how to say this. So instead of just going into a long diatribe, I'll just come out and... After this case, I'm going back to teach at Quantica.
Mulder is clearly shocked by this.
You're leaving the X-Files?
Ever since we started this investigation. Since I've seen Charles.
I know how upsetting this is.
I know you do. But let's face facts. Since working on these X-Files, our families have become an endangered species. Your father, your sister, Melissa, and now Charles.
I appreciate your concern and your pain, but think about the work we've done. The lives we've saved.
At what price? Our families, our lives. I'm sorry, but I can't continue to jeopardize my family to satisfy your search for the truth.
Mulder is clearly stung by this.
I thought it was our search.
This isn't easy for me.
The X-Files isn't responsible for what happened to your brother. His premonition brought us here. If anything, our work could save him.
Mulder reaches out, touching Scully's shoulder.
Just think about what you're doing. Really think about it. And after this case is over, then make your decision. Whatever it is, I'll support you.
Okay. But you're just delaying the inevitable.
Thank you. I'm gonna get Nikki and Aaron. I'll be back in a few hours. You gonna be okay?
Of course.
They look at each other for a moment. Then Mulder slowly turns and walks down the hall. Inside Holloway House, Mulder enters followed by Aaron and Nikki.
There's cable, a stocked fridge, all the comforts of home.
Mulder walks over to the window and points at a police car parked on the street.
We've got a guard in the hall and across the street. I've got to go out for a while, but make yourselves at home.
Aaron sets his suitcase down. Inside the FBI headquarters, Mulder sits at a computer, typing furiously. The images on the screen change as data is processed and displayed. Mulder finds what he's looking for, prints off some information, then picks up his phone and dials a number. After a moment, there's an answer.
Scully.
Scully stands in the hallway of St. Francis Hospital as several orderlies rush by.
Where are you, Mulder?
FBI office, Manhattan. Listen, I found 6 other cases that were similar to this one. In Macon, Georgia, a woman named Betty Noble had a premonition that a train was going to derail. She and 4 other commuters got off the train, which did in fact crash. 3 months later, the 4 people who got off the train with Betty were dead. The other cases are almost identical. In each one, a group of people avoided a tragic accident, then died in apparent suicides or accidents. Only the person who had the premonition lived.
Were they suicides?
Not sure. That's a lot of suicides and accidents. Some of them are really strange. A man was hanged when he got caught in the gears of his garage door opener.
So all this, it supports my brother's innocence.
Scully freezes. Down the hall, she sees the tall man emerge from Charles's room. She drops the phone and draws her gun.
Freeze! FBI!
The tall man glances back and sees Scully. Then he pushes through the emergency exit and disappears. Scully races down the hall, fearful for what she might find. But when she rushes into her brother's room, he's sleeping. Sheriff Wood stands at the foot of the bed. He eyes Scully's gun.
Is there a problem, Agent?
Scully puts her gun away. She motions for the sheriff to step into the hall. When he does, she turns to him.
Who is that man?
A federal agent. He seemed very interested in this case.
Well, I have a reason to believe that the man who just left here may have a vested interest in seeing my brother convicted for these deaths.
So now the FBI is setting your brother up. You're building up one hell of a defense.
This isn't a defense, it's fact. And I don't have to justify myself to you. Agent Mulder wanted to avoid any friction between us, but I won't hesitate to get the assistant director of the FBI involved. Are we clear?
Sure, lady.
The sheriff storms out of the room. Inside Charles Scully's hospital room, he sleeps soundly. Scully enters and sits beside him, beginning her vigil. End of Act 3. Act 4. Inside Charles Scully's hospital room, Scully sits by her sleeping brother. As she watches him, tears well up in her eyes. Suddenly the door opens and Mulder peers into the room. He's holding some files that he brought from the FBI headquarters. Scully rises and moves with him into the hallway. Mulder eyes Charles's room.
How is he?
Better. But that tall man was here. I don't know what he was after.
We'll assign more guards.
I've taken care of it.
Mulder hands Scully the files. She looks over them.
These are the files on the other cases. All the deaths were ruled suicides or accidents, except for 2. Suspects were apprehended, but they committed suicide before they could be tried. The strange thing is, none of the suspects knew the victims, nor could they be connected to the initial accidents.
It sounds like they were working for someone. But who?
Mulder steps closer.
You know when we were discussing death and how when it's your time to die, you can't do anything about it?
It's a theory, yes.
Well, what if Charles wasn't meant to die in that plane crash?
If these people weren't supposed to die, then why are they being killed now?
I'm not talking about the others. Just Charles. What if it wasn't his time to die, and that's why he had the premonition? To get him off the plane, to save him. But the others... maybe it was their time.
So you're saying someone is killing the survivors because they believe they cheated death?
Someone. Or something.
Something. Are you talking about spirits or demons?
I'm talking about one of the 2 things in life you can't avoid.
Death. You think death is after them? Death is merely a lack of life. It's not some sentient force.
How do we know that?
Scully is still looking over the folders when something catches her attention.
Mulder, look. According to this, both of the suspects arrested in the other cases had recent near-death experiences.
When was the first one?
June 15th. Christine Searcy was in a boating accident. She flatlined for several minutes, but paramedics were able to revive her.
June 15. That was the same day the train wrecked in Georgia. What about the other one?
Tony Pope. He had a heart attack on April 30th, the same time that the plane in Nevada went down.
Conviction storms Mulder's face. He walks down the hallway to the nurse's station. Scully follows. At the nurse's station, Mulder approaches an older nurse, smiles at her.
Could you look up all of the deaths in the area on April 12th?
After a few minutes, the screen is filled with names.
Good. Now, see if any of those people flatlined and were revived.
The older nurse arcs an eyebrow.
Did any of them die and were brought back to life?
The nurse is clearly taken aback by this strange request, but shrugs. As the older nurse punches a few computer keys, Scully turns to Mulder.
Mulder, what do you hope to find?
Anyone who died and was revived at the same time that Flight 180 went down.
Inside Holloway House, Aaron sleeps on the couch. Suddenly, a faint noise rings out, waking him. He turns on a lamp and looks around the room, but doesn't see anything. Rising, Aaron moves towards the closed door that leads to the bedroom. He calls out,
Nicky?
There's no answer. Aaron is almost at the door. He reaches for the knob, but before his hands close around it, he hears a voice in the room. It whispers softly.
Aaron.
Inside St. Francis Hospital, Mulder is trying to contain his excitement.
I believe the people who flatlined crossed over to the other side. And what if when they were revived, something else came back with them?
The older nurse looks up from the screen.
Here's the list.
Mulder looks at the screen.
There must be half a dozen names. It'll take some time to narrow. Or maybe not. Look.
Scully leans closer, reading where Mulder's pointing. Her eyes widen in shock.
Oh my god.
Shot in the line of duty. Flatlined at 10:33 p.m., revived at 10:42. Same time as Flight 180 crashed.
Mulder grabs his phone and dials a number. The call doesn't go through. Mulder turns to Scully.
The line at Holloway House is dead.
Call the police station.
Mulder does.
Hello? Can I speak to Sheriff Wood?
Inside the police station, a heavy deputy is on the other line.
I'm sorry. He left about an hour ago. Any message?
Radio the officer at Holloway House.
On a dark road, we see Aaron's 57 Thunderbird round the far bend. Sheriff Wood drives, whistling the Doris Day song, Que Sera Sera, but his tone is dark, ominous. We hear a commotion. The sheriff glances towards the back seat. Nicky and Aaron are handcuffed to the doors, their mouths gagged. The two struggle against their restraints. The sheriff's features go dark. His face looks leaner now, scarier. He's definitely not the same sheriff we've come to know. Mulder and Scully's car zoom around the corner. Mulder is still on his phone while Scully unfolds a map.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, put up roadblocks at both ends of the interstate.
Mulder hangs up and turns to Scully, who's holding a map.
The sheriff left there 10 minutes ago, driving a 57 Thunderbird.
Aaron's car.
Yes, they're heading north on I-80.
Scully looks over a map.
If he follows the same MO as the others, he'll try to make this look like an accident.
Scully sees something.
Wait! There's an old bridge off the interstate about 10 miles from here.
Mulder floors it. Inside the Thunderbird, the sheriff continues to drive. Aaron manages to get the tape off his mouth.
What? What do you want?
The sheriff's voice is that strange whisper we heard before the others' deaths.
To make things right.
Mulder and Scully pull onto the bridge. Mulder turns his car sideways, blocking it off. The two agents get out of the car. Suddenly, at the other end of the bridge, a pair of headlights pierce the darkness. It's Aaron's Thunderbird. Sheriff Wood notices the two agents at the other end of the bridge. He slams on the brakes. Mulder and Scully see the car stop. They run forward. The sheriff does a 180 on the bridge. Aaron, thinking quickly, he uses his foot to hit the seat release. He then puts both feet against the back of the seat and pushes forward, shoving the sheriff into the steering wheel, pressing him so tight he can't move. The car swerves to the right, scraping the bridge. A huge gash is ripped across the car. Gas begins to leak out. Inside the car, Aaron continues to press the sheriff against the dashboard. The car smashes into the side of the bridge and finally comes to a stop. Mulder and Scully race toward the car. Aaron continues to press the seat, but the sheriff finally manages to get his gun free. He turns and aims the gun right at Nicky's face. Tears stream from her eyes. Aaron, knowing that the sheriff will shoot Nicky, releases his seat. The sheriff straightens. Over his shoulder we see Mulder and Scully halt several feet from the car. They aim their guns at the sheriff.
Put your hands up where I can see them!
The sheriff looks at them. Calmly, he starts to get out of the car.
Don't move!
The sheriff ignores Scully. He steps out of the car, still holding his gun. Behind him we see gas trickling from the car's broken gas tank. It spills onto the road.
Who are you?
The sheriff smiles.
You know, both of you. I've come so close to claiming you many, many times.
Mulder and Scully, letting the sheriff's words sink in, trying to fathom what they're dealing with. The sheriff slowly turns back to the car. In the car's back seat, Aaron and Nikki struggle against their bonds. Scully steps closer.
I said put your hands up!
The sheriff starts to raise his gun towards Aaron and Nikki. Scully fires, hitting him in the shoulder. The sheriff is unfazed. He starts to pull his trigger. Scully and Mulder open fire. But the sheriff acts as if the hail of bullets is merely an annoyance. On the sheriff, looking down, the gas from the car has formed a puddle a few feet away. The sheriff smiles. He steps into the puddle of gasoline. He turns and aims his gun at the car's gas tank. Scully and Mulder realize what he's going to do.
Mulder!
No! The sheriff fires his gun into the gas tank and it explodes with a roar, incinerating the Thunderbird, Aaron and Nikki instantly. The fire ignites the puddle of gas that the sheriff is standing in. He too goes up in flames. Then the car explodes. Mulder and Scully cover their eyes as metal and glass rain down around them. The sheriff's burning body, standing upright, doesn't move as the flames burn it. Suddenly a translucent, nebulous form rises out of the flaming sheriff's body. His body falls to the ground. Then the nebulous form fades into the darkness, leaving our agents stunned. On the bridge, Agent Mulder and Scully watch the burning wreck in silence as black smoke billows into the night air. We fade out. We fade back in to view outside Charles Scully's house. Mulder is in the car as Charles and Scully stand in the doorway.
Thanks, Dana. For everything.
That's what big sisters are for.
I know. And I'm glad you're staying with the X-Files.
I've devoted my entire life to science, to analyzing and dissecting things. And when I thought about it, when I turned those skills inward and examined myself, I realized that if I left the X-Files, I would be turning my back on everything I believed in. And I couldn't do that.
I knew you wouldn't leave.
How? Did you have another premonition?
No, I just know you.
Scully moves towards her brother.
I love you, Charles.
I love you too. And I'm going to set an extra place at the table for the holidays.
Sounds great.
Charles gives Scully a hug.
I guess you should run. Your partner's waiting.
Scully turns and looks at Mulder.
Yes, he is.
Then, after a final goodbye, Scully slowly walks to the car as Charles watches from the doorway. We stay on this scene for a moment. Then we cut to close-up on a lit cigarette. We slowly pull back, knowing who we're going to see. It's Cancer Man, sitting in a dark car. He doesn't look pleased.
Your mission was a complete failure. You didn't implicate Charles Scully. The others won't be pleased.
We pan around to see he's talking to the tall man. The tall man is sweating nervously.
I tried. I left evidence in Josh Taylor's building that pointed to Charles, but the local sheriff acted like he never found anything.
And this sheriff, he was the one who killed the others?
Yes.
Why would he suppress the evidence you left?
I don't know, and I don't know why he killed those people, but I did everything I could. This isn't on me.
Cancer Man ponders the situation. He then looks at the tall man as if gazing into his very soul.
This was your first assignment, so you'll get one warning. But know that we play for keeps, and any future failure will come with dire consequences. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
With that, Cancer Man gets out of the car. The tall man sighs and looks into the rearview mirror. From the tall man's point of view, we watch Cancer Man walk down the street. We watch him until he disappears into the night's shadows. We then fade out. The end.
And that is how X-Files Flight 180 went. What do you guys think? Do you think that this would have been a worthy addition to the X-Files canon? Now, if you've listened to our X-Files episode where we came up with our own film version, you'll know that we have a bit of knowledge on what Mulder and Scully get up to, but we wouldn't really have seen it all. That being said, I really do feel like Jeffrey Riddick did a great job in finding the voices of these iconic characters. I was never thrown off by the characterization, so on that side of things, great job. I also really dig the references to past episodes as well. This isn't just the flashback part of it, but also bringing Scully's brother Charles right into the mix, and with a significant role. It really embraced the world that exists already, while also attempting to add another layer to it as well. The script itself, which was written in 1994, seems to have dated quite well. I'm thinking like if they actually were to dust this off and film it today, I think a lot of it would actually stay. Although I do find it funny when Riddick writes that the nurse punches a few computer keys, and there's other elements like that. Just thought that this was cute that the script made sure that we understood that it was a computer keyboard. Nothing much, but it made me smile. Look, I'll be honest, I thoroughly enjoyed this script, and I'm thrilled to be able to provide you a slice of what it would have been like. And I hope you enjoyed it too. And I think this is a good time to wrap it all up. So once again, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the podcast, and don't forget to share this episode, especially with any X-Files fans out there that you know. And we will be returning to the stage very soon with Frank Darabont's Unmade Indiana Jones 4 script. Details will be coming soon. Okay, guys, until next time, catch you later. Okay, go from the bubbly. 1, 2, 3.
You gotta keep it quiet. Okay, are we doing an all or are we doing a do?
We can do both.
Okay, no. We're gonna do a ready?
I think we should do it all different because then it sounds mashy and hammy, and that's where we want to go.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna go from the top here, guys.
Okay, we ready?
Yeah.
Well, but then when we get to the wee doo bee blah bee blue, what do we do?
That was perfect.
That's what we do instead of for the other half. It's that rendition. It's not recording.
Diddly 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 diddly. Diddly 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 diddly. 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 Diddly 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 diddly. Diddly 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 diddly. What are you doing? Diddly 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 diddly.
X-Files.
At what point did we just stop doing the X-Files?
I don't think we're gonna get it any better, to be honest.